Today's story is once again on the delightful side. It is called The Peasant Who Pretended to be a Rabbi. It comes from the book Lessons from Our Living Past that I taught so many decades ago. I just love this book. I will not get rid of it. And the story says, in 18th century Eastern Europe, preachers known as Magidim often traveled from town to town, delivering lectures and sermons and interpreting the law. The Dubner Magid was especially famed as a scholar whose piety did not keep him from understanding the problems and pleasures of the common people. One day, while he was still on the road, his coachman called to him, "Rabbi, I've been a good driver, haven't I? Dubno, Vilna, Zamosk. There's not a place in the world I haven't driven you." The Magid smiled. "So," said the coachman, "I would like to ask one favor. Whenever and wherever we go, the people pay you great honor. Is it a crime to want to know how it feels to be famous? Though I am unable to read or write, if you were to exchange clothes with me for a day, the people would think that I was the preacher and you were the coachman, and they would honor me instead." Now, the Dubner Magid enjoyed a good joke as much as anyone, but he did not like to see his faithful driver make a fool of himself in front of the local scholars. "And what if we do change places?" he asked. "What will you do when they ask you to explain some difficult passage in the law? Why, you'll fall flat on your face." But the driver said, "Don't worry about that, Rabbi. I'll take my chances." "Then here are my clothes." So the two men undressed and traded clothes, and the Magid became a coachman, and the coachman became a rabbi. As they entered the town, all the people in it turned out to greet the famous preacher. Leading the coachman into the synagogue, they shook his hand and said, "Shalom Aleichem, Magid," and bowed. The real rabbi followed at a humble distance, as a coachman should. The, quote, rabbi was immensely pleased with his reception. Surrounded by the local scholars, he sat in the seat of honor, quite satisfied with the way things were going, while the Dubner Magid watched with twinkling eyes from a corner of the room. Then someone spoke up. "Learned Rabbi," he said, "will you be kind enough to explain to us this passage in the law? We have not been able to agree upon an interpretation." "Oh no," thought the Magid in his corner. "Now my friend has had it." With his brow pulled tight in concentration, the, quote, rabbi peered into the Torah placed in front of him, and the room was silent because no one wished to disturb him while he was thinking. Only the Magid knew that the, quote, rabbi could not read one word of the Torah. Suddenly, the, quote, rabbi impatiently pushed the book away from him, rose and confronted the group around him, shouting, "Some scholars! Couldn't you ask me a question that would be worthy of my talents? Why, the passage you have pointed out to me is so simple that anyone could explain it. Even my coachman can explain it to you." With that, he called to the Dubner Magid, "Driver, come here and explain the law to these so-called scholars." Shabbat Shalom, everybody.